If you're looking to grow as a competitive player in Disney Lorcana, hopefully this video will help. Today I am looking to share with you 5 essential tips that have helped me grow as a competitive player, and I want to give you just some general TCG advice that will just be helpful across the board. If you're new here, my name is Eric, and I've been playing Disney Lorcana since its release back in 2023, and lately I've been trying to grow as a competitive player. I've been attending tournaments here locally in Florida, and I even just went to my first DLC in Milwaukee, where I have a video of that experience if you want to check that out. But this is the first TCG I've really taken to heart to try and grow competitively. And to do so for months, I've been researching, taking coaching lessons, listening to podcasts, doing everything I can to try and grow competitively, and I'm hoping that I can pass some of those tips on to you. And I believe that these 5 tips that I've uncovered are going to help you grow as a player, whether you're new to the space and you've never heard these things before, or these are just simply good reminders to the competitive long-term player. Let's dive in. Tip number 1, good cards equal good decks. This may seem plainly obvious, but it is regularly forgotten in the face of broken card combinations. Let's take the beginning of Set 10's meta, for example. On the front end of Whispers in the Well, everyone was touting how broken blue-green was because of Prince Philip and the Malicious Mean and Scary combo. But as the weeks have gone by, we've seen this broken combo be really hard to pull off because there's a lot of cards to mitigate it, and it's shown that the deck is not as great as once thought. And the actual deck that has come out as the best deck in format so far is Amethyst Steel, which has always just been a good deck with good cards. It's not really doing any sort of broken combinations most of the time. It's just really, really powerful cards in and of themselves. So far, the deck has made more top 8 finishes than any other deck by a landslide. And it's funny because it's always just been sort of touted as the most fair deck. And that's because it doesn't necessarily do any broken combinations. It just has the highest quality cards all throughout. Now, I'm not saying there can't be good combo decks out there, but more often than not, the best deck is going to be the deck with the best cards. And we should keep that in mind when we're picking what decks we want to play competitively. And if you're new to the game of Lorcana, it can be pretty hard to identify what are good cards to put in your deck to make it a good deck. There's some great technical tools to help you with this. One of them is Dreamborn. This is an amazing database tool that you can go and look at decks that people are making, and you can build your own online as well as look at deck prices. But let's say you're at a locals or at some sort of tournament and you play against someone and they play this crazy card on you and you don't even know what that card is or you haven't seen it. This is a great tool for you. It's called Rare Candy. It's an app you can download and it allows you to scan cards in person. So let's say you finish a game with someone and you're like, hey, can you show me that card? For instance, let's take Spooky Sight. For instance, if they played Spooky, sent all of your cards into your inkwell, and you're like, whoa, I didn't even know that was a card. Can I see that? Well, you can open up the Rare Candy app, and then you can simply scan Spooky Sight and see that you could add it to your collection. You can check for pricing in the market value, what its history has been, and then you can even click on a link to TCG Player, and you can scroll down and order it yourself right then and there, so you don't have to go looking it up at home. You are quick and on the go with it. Online tools like Dreamborn and Rare Candy and many others can really help you know what good cards there are out there to help you build good decks. This brings us to our second tip. Tip number 2, meta knowledge is a superpower. In sets 6 through 8, I exclusively played Ruby Amethyst. It was my favorite color combination. I loved the deck. I felt like I had so much flexibility and I had the ability to control all the different kinds of decks I would face. But nothing would frustrate me more when my opponent would predict what I was going to do next. For example, it would be turn 6 and my opponent would play an opposing Steel Pete.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
and stop me from using my board wipe, be prepared. Or perhaps earlier in the round on turn 4, my opponent wouldn't turn their most valuable card sideways by exerting them, and I wouldn't be able to take advantage of it with my incoming rush Maui. I would be so frustrated because it felt like my opponent could just see the cards in my hand. This is the power of knowing each and every meta deck. Knowing what each deck is trying to do on each turn allows you to make more informed decisions to mitigate losses as well as maximize your gains. For instance, if you're playing against blue or sapphire decks, you know that they're going to try and ramp on turn 2, which means more often than not, if they didn't play a 1-drop, you're really safe to quest. Or if you're playing against steel decks, you know that they're more than likely looking to sing with their characters some very powerful removal songs. And so you need to take care of their singers before they take care of you. Knowing the meta empowers you to ask the question, what is the most powerful card my opponent could play this turn, and how does it affect me? This deduction allows you to operate almost like a psychic, where you can make better plays than your opponent turn after turn and eventually win the game.
Wow, winning.
Tip number 3, card advantage is win advantage. Card advantage is accomplished in several different ways in Lorcana. The most obvious and first way is hand advantage, which can come from drawing more cards than your opponent or causing your opponent to discard more cards than you. The second form of card advantage is ink advantage, where you play cards that allow you to ramp your inkwell faster than your opponent. And a lesser form of card advantage, at least I like to call it card advantage, is cycling. Cycling allows you to get rid of worse cards in your hand and hopefully draw into better cards. So we know what card advantage is, but why is it so powerful to help you win games? Let's take set 9, for example. In that meta, the best deck and format for quite some time was Blurple. And in the mirror matches, it was pretty well known if you were the first person to sing second star to the right, that meant you drew 5 cards, and your opponent basically had no chance of catching up at that point. Or if you take other matchups for Blurple, it would tend to generate more card advantage via ramping. And it would gain more cards in the inkwell, allowing it to play bigger and better cards than the opposing player. Then if we take a look at a deck that was really strong at cycling, you could look no further than Amber Emerald Dogs. The 7-cost tramp is so powerful that if played correctly, can cycle through 4, 5, 6, even more cards to help you find exactly what you need in that time frame, which is often than not another tramp to allow you to cycle some more. If this happens, your opponent is pretty much helpless to find any way to stop you from finding your best cards. And if you have the best cards at this point in the game, more than likely, you win. So often than not, games can truly be decided by who generated the best and most efficient card advantage throughout the match. Now, obviously, this isn't perfectly true, because you could take aggro decks, for instance. If a opposing deck takes all its time building up card advantage, and doesn't stop the aggro deck from questing, then you're probably going to lose because you just spent too much time developing card advantage instead of playing to the field. So card advantage isn't always an indicator of exactly who's going to win the match, but it is probably the largest indicator of who will. This takes us to our next tip. Tip number 4, anticipate the field. This tip is a lot like tip number 2 in how knowing the meta decks is a superpower, so is anticipating what meta decks will be played at your upcoming tournament. We see this all the time in top players. They combine whatever evidence they can find in the meta to predict aptly what is going to be played at the next tournament, and then use that to their advantage to build the right deck. Let's take Zan Syed from Rare Hunters, for example. His winning DLC last season was primarily because he broke the format. He correctly anticipated what would be the most played decks and then built a green steel discard deck to correctly counter everything he played. And even more recently, in the past 2 DLCs, Zan also played Amber Emerald Dogs, which was only about 6% of the meta share because he was correctly predicting a Blurple heavy meta, which Amber Emerald Dogs played pretty well into. And so how does someone acquire this knowledge? Well, I have the tools for you. You see, there's great online tools to help you understand what is being played lately in the space of Lorcana. A great online tool that I've seen is inkdex.com. It is an awesome website that I'll have linked down in the description that allows you to see the most recent tournaments, what was played, and the top decks that won those tournaments. As I'm recording this, Zan Syed won the 25K at CCS this past weekend using an off-meta deck. He did exactly what I'm describing in this video, as he read the meta and created something completely different to counter it. It even has a cool tool where it gives you a ranking system via 1 to 3 stars of how relevant the tournament is to the meta. This is a key tool to understanding where the meta was the previous tournaments. And there are 2 more tools that help you see where the meta is right now. One tool is X or Twitter. A lot of the Lorcana community is on X, and so you can kind of get a good pulse of what people are playing, how people are enjoying the game by staying active on that social media. But another more important tool that you need to know about, but I can't quite speak about.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. Second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
These online tools are so invaluable to help you anticipate the field, see what decks are getting most played to allow you to come up with some pretty good counterplays. Which brings us to our last and final tip. Tip number 5, know who is the beatdown. This is an old concept, but a tremendous one. I first learned of it when Edmund Chu shared it on a JDZ interview after he became the North American champion last season. It comes from an ancient article written all the way back in 1999 by a man named Mike Flores. It was primarily about the game Magic: The Gathering, but is a very applicable skill to Disney Lorcana. The concept is that in every game, there is someone who is the beatdown, or in our terminology, maybe that they are the one who is going to be aggro, going to be questing very, very efficiently. And there is another player who needs to take the position of the control deck, needs to take over the game, control the opponent until they can flip the script and become the beatdown. And so it is very vital to not misjudge who you are at what given time, because if you quest on a turn you should be challenging, or you quest instead of singing some removal actions, you could be in a really bad spot. Oftentimes there can be a singular turn that decided a game, and it was all because someone quested when they shouldn't have. So how does someone grow in this very important skill? For me personally, it's just asking the question to myself, almost out loud at times, who is the beatdown? I've been in games where I've literally said, I guess I'm the beatdown, so I'm just gonna turn sideways. And what I mean by that is that I need to quest out. I need to keep on the pressure. And then there's times where I see my opponent is the beatdown, where they definitely have some really strong questing power, and I can't outquest them. So I need to start removing their cards. And so skills like this one have just grown me competitively. I am mentally processing or even verbally processing some of these things in matches at locals or at tournaments, but they're definitely making me grow. And I've learned them by researching pro players like Edmund Chu or Zan Syed or other great pros. I've watched their games, I've learned from them, and these are the kinds of lessons that I wish I knew sooner when I was trying to grow as a competitive player. So I'm hoping that this video was helpful for you and that these tools and different links down in the description can help you grow in your game. Thanks for watching.